A child rapist and murderer, Robert Fisher, killed in prison. The brutal slaying of Josefina Cunningham. So a slightly different story today, guys. A child rapist and murderer was found dead in a prison just weeks after his sentencing. Warning. This episode contains talk of child sexual abuse and murder and may upset some viewers, with definite bad language. Okay, so this one really is completely heinous, monstrous, truly unforgivable, and utterly sickening beyond belief. So if you do struggle personally when hearing about child rape and murder, or you could get affected negatively in other ways from today's episode, please skip by and watch one of my many others. But I will put a warning up when the worst details are about to come. If you feel you can handle it, let's dive in. So guys, it's like 3 AM in the UK right now, and this is my second take on this episode, so let's hope that I can get through it. Basically, I left my dehumidifier on, and the whole way through it was just so I didn't think you'd really appreciate that. Anyway, I wasn't going to let tonight go without me giving this another take. So 3 AM, here we go. So the detestable monster behind this wicked act is called Robert Fisher. And it seems that Robert and the young victim's mother, Lakeisha Stewart, were friends and perhaps maybe even lovers. This connection to the child's mother is what gave him access, time and opportunity to commit his sinful acts upon the innocent, defenceless girl. Born July 25th, 2019, this sweet little girl was named Josefina Cunningham, and she was just 3 years old. With a smile that could light up any room and an adorable, nurturing manner and personality to match. Nicknamed Josie, she was described as a loving and caring child. Her teachers at daycare even noticed that she often pretended to be a teacher herself, and she would line up her dolls and she would feed them and read to them. Just so sweet, showing her kind nature. Josie was a complete girly girl. She loved the colour pink. And matching her pink and red outfits, she would ask her teachers, "Do you like my dress today?" Josie was always seen running around carefree, as all children should be, with her beaming smile and charming way, making everyone around her smile too. But that magic would all be so cruelly taken away by the disgusting human Robert Fisher. Because of his sickening urges and desires to have sex with an innocent 3-year-old girl. What the fuck? This absolute wrong'un became to know of Lakeisha because his sister lived next door to her. It seems that Josie's mum Lakeisha and the sick fuck Robert had begun an intimate relationship with one another. Obviously she didn't know he was a sick fuck back then. As it was discovered he had begun sleeping over at the infant's house only days before the brutal assault. I mean, I don't have children personally, so it is hard to say, but I feel like if I was a single mother, I would find it incredibly hard to have a man sleep over at my house. But again, it is hard for me to say, or comment on really. But unfortunately, Lakeisha allowing this man into their world, and more importantly, into their home, is what gave this sick bastard his opportunity to fulfill his disgusting wants and desires, which I am sure she feels utterly terrible about, and of course, never intended. But it may be that he was never actually even interested in Lakeisha in the first place, as that is what these freaks do. They choose a target, in this case, Josie. But they will move in and get to know the adult in the situation, and essentially they then groom the adult into believing that they are wanted and desired, when in actual fact, they are just getting closer and closer to the real attraction, the innocent child. How on earth could anyone ever be sexually attracted to a fucking 3-year-old? That is beyond sick. But what he chose to do to this sweet, innocent little soul is honestly horrific beyond imagination. So I'm not going to go into huge detail, but I am going to state the facts of what happened in this case. So please be warned, for the next few minutes I will be discussing the details of Josie's horrific sexual assault and murder. But again, I will put up a skip part here at the worst parts. So on the 6th of July 2023, Lakeisha decided she wanted to go to Walmart in the evening, and instead of waiting just one more night or taking Josie with her, she made the detrimental decision to leave little Josie at home, in the cusp of a sick individual's hands. After not knowing this man for long at all, and this was the first time that Josie would be left alone with Robert, Bayek is not going to waste a golden opportunity like that, and he did not waste any time. I'm so tired. Had he been fantasizing about this ever since he set his eyes on little Josie? I mean, come on, what normal person thinks, ooh, I'm alone with a 3-year-old, let's go sexually assault and murder them? Now, Lakeisha told the police when she returned home from late night shopping that Josie was asleep. She then decided to take some medication, and she herself then fell asleep, leaving her baby alone with a monster. So, did she really actually fully check on Josie? Or just pop her head in and see her looking asleep? Or just hear silence and guess that she was? We don't know. It was then said between the evening of July the 6th and the early hours of July the 7th, 2023, Robert Fisher took his opportunity and did the unthinkable in many ways. Beginning with crushing up some of Lakeisha's medication and crumbling it into a drink to give to the 3-year-old to drug her so she would become incapacitated. Then, deprived of strength and power due to being drugged, Josie would be an even easier target for him to do what he had been dreaming of all along. That was well thought through and planned. I mean, come on. He must have either spent enough time with Lakeisha to realise that she was first of all on medication, then he might have thought about the fact that she was now, she took a medication and she was now in bed asleep. Got no energy for this. I mean, he'd either spent a lot of time with Lakeisha and realised that she was on medication, then he must have thought of the fact that she'd taken some and gone to sleep. Then he's thought of the idea of using her medication to drug the poor girl. Then he's thought about putting it in a drink. I mean, there is a lot of stages of this plan here that he has put into motion, and that is truly worrying. One sick individual. Now, not only did the autopsy show this next sickening part, but Robert, in his own words, shockingly admitted himself that he went into the 3-year-old Josie's bedroom and raped the poor girl after drugging her to make things easier. Remember, that was also in his words, meaning she was fully alive and awake during the entire disturbing, terrifying ordeal. Unthinkable. After fully violating and raping this sweet girl, it seemed when Robert was done pleasing himself and his sick urges, he then panicked, not knowing how to cover up his awful crime, and he then took another horrific step by using Clorox wipes to try to remove any of his DNA that might be on the child. Sick fuck. He scrubbed Josie's face so hard to try and destroy any evidence of him. He actually removed the pigment of the skin on her face. What the hell? That's overkill, surely. I mean, I dread to think what he had done to her face to warrant rubbing it so hard. He changed her skin colour. Sickening madness. Oh, it gets worse still, as he then realised his DNA could be found inside of Josie, which made him decide to also insert the Clorox wipes inside of her to try and remove all traces that it could have been him. Oh my god. But come on, it's 2023 at this point. A pack of wipes, no matter how hard you scrub, will never do a 10 out of 10 job of removing all forms of DNA. They just won't. He made poor Josie suffer immensely, even after violating and drugging her. All to be caught in the end anyway. Fucking tragic and sick. He then left her to die in her own house with her mother right next door. The brutal attack that Robert Fisher unleashed on the innocent girl was so horrific and damaging, it literally killed her. Josie's little body went through such a traumatic response that it physically just shut down completely because it could not sustain the trauma of the rape. Wholly unthinkable. You are a sick, sick monster, Robert Fisher. So whenever Lakeisha awoke and went in to check on her daughter, she knew instantly that something was wrong. Well, yeah, her face has been melted away for one. She would then, on the 7th of July 2023, place a worried call to 911, reporting a child in distress. It was clear when first responders arrived on scene that everything about it was fucked up. I mean, they might not have put it in those words, but I am. For one, multiple sheets and towels and items of clothing, apparently even including Robert's underwear, were found to have blood all over them, or at least on them. So clearly, something's not right. This beautiful little girl did not burn away her own face, or drug herself, that's for sure. Luckily, Robert was incredibly sloppy. Even when inspectors were called to the home on Broadway in Rensselaer, Robert would still try to enter the property, making the pathetic excuse of the need to retrieve his pack of cigarettes. Are you kidding me? The house is a crime scene. A child died inside, and every inch of it needs to be preserved for evidence. And you really believe they're just going to let you inside for your fags? Be real. He was clearly just trying to see what they knew, or maybe even get in there to, move a few things. Perhaps clothing with his blood on. Josie was taken immediately to the Albany Medical Centre for urgent treatment, but alas, this sweet, darling little girl would never pull through. Her body just could not sustain the damage. And after seeing such horrors before their eyes, they determined it was death by homicidal violence. She must have looked terrible for them to deem such a result so early on. She was found to have significant bruising in her inner thighs and buttocks. She suffered lacerations from obviously this grown-ass man trying to penetrate her, with acute hemorrhaging and also acute intoxication from the drugs he plied her with. In court, even with all of the evidence before him, Robert decided to plead not guilty last year to the charges of first-degree rape and second-degree murder, forcing all of Josefina Cunningham's loved ones to go through weeks of trial, where they would inevitably get extremely deep into all the details of the case and what Josie suffered before her death. I think the original offer was 20 years to life, which is completely insane to me. This man drugged and completely violated this 3-year-old, leaving her unrecognisable and without a life to live. But he is offered 20 years? Fucking wow. Robert was remanded to Rensselaer County without bail, apparently due to his extensive criminal history, including a violent felony conviction, multiple misdemeanor convictions, probation violations, and also a history of failing to appear in court. How this sick fuck can even think of pleading not guilty after the horrific sexual attack and murder of the beautiful 3-year-old Josie, knowing full well how he made that little girl suffer, is beyond me. Then making her loved ones have to sit through trials and details. Ugh, just an evil, sick and twisted scumbag. The courthouse did see many angry and upset family members erupt, which I can only imagine how they all felt. I want to eradicate the scum too. The thing is, even in prison, a child rapist and murderer gets no respect. Actually, many in there absolutely detest that kind of low life, and you can never hide from that. So I imagine prison was fun for him. I believe it was Elmira Correctional Facility he was sent to, also known as The Hill, a maximum security state prison in Chemung County in New York. Then we get to the 10th of September 2024, and Robert Fisher faces sentencing, where he would be seen hanging his head nearly the entire time, for reasons unknown. These monsters don't feel regret and guilt like we do, but it is always another story standing in a courtroom packed full of the little girl's family whose child you brutally raped and murdered. Also the fact that he got caught. due to a plea agreement, details which are unknown. So I can only guess it was to get him to admit to all of it and maybe give details of the account and, I don't know, perhaps spare the family a trial. But either way, this meant that Robert Fisher would plead guilty to murder in the second degree, a Class A1 felony, and rape in the first degree, which is a Class B violent felony. This in turn meant that this despicable, disgusting human excrement would only receive 20 years to life prison sentence for the horrific drugging, violent rape and murder of a 3-year-old girl. That is despicable. I dread to think how terrible this verdict made all of Josie's loved ones feel. The pure rage that the sicko only gets 20 years to life is wild, it really is. I mean, I'm not even related to this little girl, and honestly, I have no words. Truly disturbing. Rensselaer County Court Judge Deborah Young was clearly also disgusted and disturbed by Robert's actions, and she said, "Your heinous and deprived actions caused unimaginable pain and suffering. You betrayed her mother's trust by drugging, raping and killing Josie, and even when she was gone, you continue to violate her using cleaning products that were so strong they literally removed the pigment from her skin. You are a threat to society and show no remorse for what you did to Josie. It is clear to this court that you will never be fit to live in the community ever again." Well, what is all this 20 years about then? I mean, he looks about 30 now. I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but he looks about 30. Sorry, something in my eye. He looks to me about 30 now, so say he's 50 when he released. You're just going to trust him in society then? You could actually feel how angry and disgusted this judge really was when stating these facts. She says how it is her duty to protect society from the harm he demonstrated himself capable of inflicting. She also emphasised how the agreed upon sentence was only acceptable to the court because it spared the family, first responders and community from facing a further trial with its additional trauma. Really? That's the reason he only gets 20 years? I would just tell the family to not be a part of the courtroom. She really didn't seem happy about it, to be fair. So this sick motherfucker was sentenced on the 10th of September 2024 to 20 years to life in the New York State Department of Correctional Services State Prison. But, you guys, the story does not end there. Robert wouldn't be received well in prison, as I said before. I mean, yes, the prisons are full of bad people who have committed awful crimes such as murder, but even these dudes do not take kindly to child rapists who drug, violate, rape and murder and even after death continue the suffering of an innocent child. Some may be from gangs who have murdered because of a personal vendetta, so they feel that that person deserved it. Some could be inside for, say, murdering their spouse for cheating. Again, they feel they deserved it, even if regretful afterwards. But it takes another kind of unhinged, sick individual to ever understand someone doing such horrors to a 3-year-old child. What could a 3-year-old have ever done to deserve that? The answer? Nothing. Well, Mr. Sicko Fisher would only find himself in prison for a mere 6 weeks. Oh, but don't worry. It's all good, because it seems that the other prisoners in the Elmira Correctional Facility felt like 20 years was unjust and decided to take it upon themselves to serve their own justice. And Robert Fisher would be attacked and murdered behind Mars only 6 weeks after his sentencing. Yes, okay, perhaps we shouldn't celebrate someone's death, but in cases like this, I think it's totally acceptable to cheer at the death of such scum of the earth. According to the Department of Corrections, Robert was pronounced dead at around 1:50 a.m. on the 22nd of October 2024 at the Elmira Correctional Facility. His actual cause of death is still unknown as I'm writing this, but come on, who really gives a shit how this evil twisted bastard died? Do you agree? Let me know in the comments. Funnily enough, yet another convicted child sex offender would also be murdered behind bars that very same night. Like some sort of comeback justice purge from the prisoners themselves. A prisoner purge on child sex offenders. I like it. The New York State Department of Corrections said that 51-year-old William Brand from Malone, New York, was also pronounced dead at approximately 2:52 a.m. only an hour after Robert was murdered. William Brand was arrested in April of 2023 after a state police investigation determined he had inappropriate contact with a child under the age of 11. Over the course of that investigation, more and more victims would come forward. He was serving a 10-year sentence for sexual conduct against a child in the first degree. So yeah, I guess the prisoners just decided, nah, that's not right. They don't deserve to breathe another second on this planet. So in the space of just around 1 hour, the New York prisoners had took it upon themselves to eradicate 2 sick individuals. And I cannot fake pretending it's a bad thing. Even the police chief, Warren Famiglietti, from the Rensselaer Police Department, who was personally involved in the horrific case of Josefina Cunningham's tragic rape and death, said himself when asked, "Did you expect this death to come?" Talking of Robert's murder. He replied, "We didn't not expect it. It's a horrific crime. Everybody knows what he did. So we didn't expect him to have a smooth time in prison." He even says this with a kind of smirk and, shit happens kind of reaction, which I do sort of enjoy.
Did you expect this death to come?
We didn't not expect it, right? It's a horrific crime. Everybody knows what he did. So we didn't expect him to have a smooth time in prison.
Police Chief Warren was previously seen in court describing how the first responders found Josie. They said how she was found laid on her back with her arms folded across her torso as if she had been staged. I cannot even begin to imagine just how traumatic that scene of little Josie in a room would have been for the first responders and of course Josie's mother. Seeing her daughter that way, so damaged her skin tone had changed. Horrific. To be honest, I just feel thankful that he's gone and can never even sit and think for a minute about this sweet girl's face ever again. The world is a better place. Josefina's brother wanted the death sentence for his sister's rapist and murderer, but for her father, it was all too much, bringing back up the anger he had originally felt. Well, that was a sad one, guys. It was a crazy story. From one minute of being sentencing to the next. Gotta say, I appreciate those prisoners. And the world, definitely a better place without you, Robert Fisher. Guys, that was a tough one. A real sadistic bastard. A horrific crime, but just desserts also. My heart goes out to all of Josefina Cunningham's loved ones. And please, this story is not to put any hate on her mother. I don't know what it's like to be a single mother, and this could happen to so many people. Unfortunately, she entered a dangerous man into her life and her child's life. But this video is certainly not to put any hate on Josefina's mum. So, what do you all think of the fact that Robert Fisher will not serve his pathetic 20-year sentence, but instead will rot in hell? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed today's episode and would like to see more true crime, murder, crazy stories, and more random shit, please like this video and drop me a comment. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel to see me and my content again. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you being here. Random Gem.